God of War was amazing with like one shot throughout the entire game, things like that. What can you tell us about sort of, I know you don't want to get a lot of details about story and characters, but in terms of at least the devices or methods of how you're telling the story, can you tell us a bit about sort of your approach to that?
Well, we always try and keep the story inside of gameplay, you know. Video games are great when you feel like you are participating in the story versus watching it. Inside of the demo, you see Jin really not saying a lot, right? It's almost like you can treat it like a silent movie. I mean, not really, but it's pretty close because we're trying to keep the action on screen. You hear the monk yelling inside of the temple. Masako is kind of making up a plan with you when you're in action, and then she betrays you, and the betrayal is expressed even while you're dueling. Inside of the demo, we go interactive, and Jin is saying, you know, you were a good friend. She's saying, give me a monk. If you're a player and you just want to attack her right off the bat, you can. We're putting the story inside a space where you can interact with it. And so that's chief. All of our stories are, first and foremost, inside of activity.
So characters talking to them. So you said more minimal, you think, in terms of sort of dialogue and conversation, because it's, you know, Jin is a man of few words, or am I putting words in your mouth?
He's not a super chatty guy, but you know, characters do talk. I guess what I mean to say is that it is a story that you can appreciate just by watching what's happening versus somebody saying something to you, and you kind of have to build an image in your mind. Why do that when you could build the actual problem or the story on screen, in action, in gameplay? Like him following this leaf to find the temple. It's physical. You look at it, and then you see the tree, and then you see more leaves blowing. It's visual. It's in the world.
Wow. Well, again, like even this sort of frightened me. You just want to just look at it. It's beautiful. Well, we have one more clip for you guys that we're going to show. Do you want to set up? This is a
this is like a little behind-the-scenes peek at sort of this juxtaposing some of the mocap that David Ishimaru did for us with the actual realization of that in game that you saw on the gameplay demo that we did.
Awesome. All right, let's check it out.
See if that gets queued up.
Mocapping Ghost.
So this is from the actual gameplay demo that we did, and then we'll cut here in a second to see David doing that on our mocap stage. We have a mocap stage at Sucker Punch. And this is Billy getting his ass kicked, so this is a good one. So. That's our animation director. So taking one for the team.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, again, that's side by side,
there you go.
It's going to be so cool when all these are all chained together.
Yeah, we can't wait till I actually let you play it, Jeff. So.
In time. I've only asked a few times. But no, I got to say, this is, it's so exciting because, you know, across worldwide studios at Sony, I think all of the teams just continue to keep pushing in new directions, and I feel like this is such an evolution of, you know, the types of games Sucker Punch has done. Looks so majestic and beautiful. What do you guys think? It looks pretty good, right? Yeah. Well, I know there's lots of hard work ahead wrapping this up, but I personally cannot wait to get a chance to play it and see more of it in the months to come. So thanks to Team Sucker Punch for giving the Coliseum a little sneak preview.
Thanks, everybody.
Ghost.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it. Welcome back to the Coliseum. That's right. We got an awesome afternoon for you guys. Amazing games coming on stage to share some stuff with you. We've got Call of Duty right now. We've got Spider-Man coming up a little bit later. Tonight we've got the director of Avengers, Joe Russo, here with Donald Mustard, Fortnite, and then this evening we've got an awesome performance of some of the score of God of War. So lots of great stuff. Thanks for coming to the Coliseum. Right now we are going to move on to Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Yes, I see many people with their Black Ops hats, so clearly you guys have probably already been to the booth, played it. We're going to talk about something that's not at the booth. We're going to talk about zombies. I hope that's okay with you guys. So let's bring out the guys from Treyarch to talk about all things zombies. Come on out.
Hey guys.
Jason! Adam!
Hey guys.
And Brian. Jason, Adam, Brian, great to have you guys with us here. Now, zombies, I was telling Jason backstage, I was talking to Mark Lamia from Treyarch a few weeks ago. We were having dinner, and I was saying it was 10 years ago on my old Spike show that we revealed that there's this crazy idea of zombies in Call of Duty and World at War.
Yep.
And it was, it was right at launch. You guys had sort of not really shared anything about it. I don't think anyone knew kind of quite what to make of it. And here we are a decade later.
Yep.
And people don't just appreciate it. They absolutely love what you guys do with zombies. It started as this Easter egg in World at War. Yep. I'd be curious to hear the history, and I know a lot of you guys have been, involved in it since the beginning. Where did this come from? Because, at the time, Call of Duty was very much, rooted in reality, and following the franchise from when it started, it was, very real, and it was cinematic at times, but
sure.
Super real. So this concept of kind of just twisting things a little bit and introducing zombies, like what was the genesis of that inside the studio?
Well, I mean, one thing that you kind of can't take away from the creation of it is that the time in the project when it was created, which was right at the very end, right at the point when teams are the most stressed. Everything's kind of being packed in. You're trying to lock a game down. And so subsequently, there's so many different stories about where it kind of came from, because all the different voices.
Everyone's taking credit, in other words. Yeah.
But what I can say, and again, holding the torch for it at the moment, part of my job was to go back and kind of talk to people and look at stuff and find out different opinions on it. It came from the design department.
Okay.
And that idea was floated, and then different groups in the studio kind of came together and started adding stuff.
Was it like let's put zombies in the game, or let's come up with a different game mode, or?
To my understanding, it was looking at the assets they had. They had I think it was Peleliu. I think it was an explosion with these kind of soldiers stumbling around the place, and the comment was they looked like zombies. So it's like use that animation, kind of bring that in, and then kind of different groups, different areas. Be it sound or animation.
I'll never forget. 2:00 in the morning when I got a request for zombie sounds. I'm like, wait, what? We're making Call of Duty, but
wow.
It's just grown and turned into something so special especially for us.
Yeah, and that's why it was, and because of that way that it was created, that's why it's something that we're very proud of, which was different people just coming together and making something, just adding the different kind of talents, the different kind of groups. It was something that, at the time, lots of people said we shouldn't do.
Right.
And I wasn't actually on the project at that point in time, but I would have said that as well.
Well, and it's just so different, and, you said it's one thing to have, an Easter egg, right, or a zombie that shows up in a level or something. But this was, like a new game mode, that the idea of waves of sort of, that whole idea. I mean, Adam, you were obviously involved in, animation and thinking about, what this was going to be. But the game mode and that concept of these waves, like where did that come from?
It was. So as it's been told to me, it was that idea of kind of tower defense.
Yeah.
The idea of tower defense games that were very popular.
I think you're right. I do remember that.
On Flash games at the time.
Exactly.
Desktop tower defense. And that's where, being able to kind of jump in there and then use 3D assets and a first-person experience for tower defense was very novel. And, the big kind of love of zombies hadn't really caught steam. So we were one of the first to be there, doing the kind of zombie material. But it was so out of left field that the part of the conversation with Activision was, okay, you can put it in, but we're not going to promote this. We're not going to talk about this with anyone. And I think, to be honest, part of its success was due to that. Because then it became the kind of people's game. It was the people's mode. Rather than if we'd promoted it and marketed it.
I remember it because we were doing an episode of TV show, and I think it was like the week before launch or something, and then we just sort of hinted at this other thing, and I think everyone online was like, what are they talking about? Because you're right, it was pretty hidden. Like, how, was it close to not happening?
Absolutely. I mean, there was... we had to put it in front of certain Activision executives. Yeah. And it was
unnamed Activision.
It was done in a kind of closed room. I mean, I've told this story before, but it's put in this kind of closed room where we'd bring an executive in and say, okay, play this, and then, we don't need to do this, you can walk away.
Right.
And then we'd get emails back that would say, I got to round 20.
Right.
I got to round 25. So these executives were like getting so competitive about it.
Yeah.
That's when we kind of knew that we had to kind of put it in. But it was, again, just to kind of go back, it was the fact that everyone in the studio started giving more and more time on top of the job they were already doing, adding things in from the different disciplines to make this thing come to life.
I remember being around the studio, and they said there was this energy, I think, that everyone was playing. I mean, Adam, you've been on this project for a long time over the years. Was there... I mean, I assume it created an energy that was just so different. And again, this was Call of Duty, after many years of making, amazing games. But, it's like, which war do you depict next? How do you sort of, and it was a freshness, I guess, right?
Absolutely. Even now, we have a lot of fun telling these new kinds of stories, new approach on telling stories. It's not your typical linear, here's a story, now go play. We like to set it up, show some things and not show other things, but it's how you experience the game, and you go in there and listen to the players talking, and the story unfolds that way. So it allowed us to kind of explore different ways of telling stories and developing characters and building worlds.
Yep, absolutely. And from an audio perspective, I imagine, Brian, you've been such a key part of the franchise over all these years. But for you and your guys, I imagine it allows you to play different muscles.
We started, Call of Duty is all about being as real as possible. So everything needs to be realistic and grounded. And
every gun records sound.
Everything, right? And then when the zombie thing happened, it was like, oh, this is new. This is something completely different. And creatively, just the mindset you have to even work on it is completely different. And so it was really refreshing, and it completely energized my entire team. And,
Well, and as you said, it really is one where you can brainstorm, right? And I think, when you make a traditional Call of Duty, it's kind of like, all right, here's our period and our setting, and, there's within limits you can sort of do things. Where zombies, I imagine you sort of have a blank slate in terms of where you're going to do, what it's going to be every year. And, sometimes I know it'll tie to the sort of fiction or time period of some of the games. Other times it's just... completely divorced.
Well, when it was first created, the characters didn't have any voices.
Yeah.
They were, and so the community kind of took it upon themselves to find the story in it, even though there was very kind of bare bones of what was there. They would start writing the story, and then it was only a little bit later that the audio department primarily started writing as well, writing the kind of narrative of what was kind of going on.
Yeah, I mean, really early on, we didn't have any characters speaking at all in Nocturne Toten, and then we tried to. Have some first-person voice in Verrückt, where we had kind of a bland set of characters. But the problem was it was hard to tell who was who, and it was because there were very similar actors reading a very similar script. So one of the guys at some point said, hey, if we make characters, I'll be able to tell who's who better. And that's where the original characters from Shi No Numa came from.
Because, you said the mode has definitely evolved. I mean, we'll get to Black Ops 4, but it's just sort of like... I don't know how you guys come up with this stuff. You've gotten even more sort of, brainstorming in terms of where these things have gone. But tell us about, the evolution, because, still those waves of zombies, that's part of it. But then, the idea of, you said, introducing, characters, time periods. I mean, when you track sort of the past decade of zombies, are there certain moments to you that feel like there sort of were, big gates of progress?
Absolutely. You had that fundamental core, which was fantastic.